Western world has come together to provide for the people of Ukraine with incredible levels of military, economic, humanitarian assistance. In the years before the invasion, we, America, had sent over $650 million before they crossed the border in weapons to Ukraine, including anti-air and anti-armor equipment. Since the invasion, America has committed another $1.35 billion in weapons and ammunition. And thanks to the courage and bravery of the Ukrainian people, the equipment we've sent and our colleagues have sent have been used to devastating effect to defend Ukrainian land and airspace. Our allies and partners have stepped up as well. But as I've made clear, American forces are in Europe, not in Europe, to engage in conflict with Russian forces. American forces are here to defend NATO allies. Yesterday I met with the troops that are serving alongside our Polish allies to bolster NATO's frontline defenses. The reason we want to make clear is their movement on Ukraine don't even think about going on one single inch of NATO territory. We have sacred obligations. Sacred obligation under Article 5 to defend each and every inch of NATO territory with the full force of our collective power. And earlier today, I visited your national stadium. The thousands of Ukrainian refugees are now trying to answer the toughest questions a human can ask. My God, what's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to my family? I saw tears in many of the mothers' eyes as I embraced them. They're young children, not sure whether to smile or cry. One little girl said, "Mr. President," she spoke a little English, "and my brother and my daddy, are they going to be okay? Will I see them again?" Without their husbands and fathers. In many cases, their brothers and sisters who stayed back to fight for their country. I didn't have to speak the language or understand the language to feel the emotion in their eyes when they gripped my hand. Little kids hung onto my leg, praying with a desperate hope all this is temporary. Apprehension that they may be perhaps forever away from their homes. Almost a debilitating sadness. This is happening all over again. But I was also struck by the generosity of the people of Warsaw, for that matter, all the Polish people, with the depths of their compassion, their willingness to reach out, opening their hearts, taking care and care love in their hearts and their homes, simply to help. I also want to thank my friend, the great American chef, Jose Andres, and his team for helping families, those feeding those who are yearning to be free. But helping these refugees is not something Poland or any other nation should carry alone. All the world democracies have a responsibility to help. All of them. And the people of Ukraine can count on the United States to meet its responsibility. I've announced 2 days ago we will welcome 100,000 Ukrainian refugees. We already have 8,000 a week coming to the United States of other nations' nationalities. We'll provide nearly $300 million in humanitarian assistance, providing tens of thousands of tons of food, water, medicine, and other basic supplies. In Brussels, I announced the United States is prepared to provide more than $1 billion in additional humanitarian aid. The World Food Program told us that despite significant obstacles, at least some relief is getting to major cities in Ukraine, but not not Mariupol, because Russian forces are blocking relief supplies. But will not cease our efforts to get humanitarian relief if ever it is needed in Ukraine to the people who made it out of Ukraine. Notwithstanding the brutality of Vladimir Putin, let there be no doubt that this war has already been a strategic failure for Russia, already. We lost children myself, I know that's no solace to the people who lost family. But he, Putin, thought Ukrainians would roll over and not fight. Not much of a student in history. Instead, Russian forces have met their match with brave and stiff Ukrainian resistance. Rather than breaking Ukrainian resolve, Russia's brutal tactics have strengthened the resolve. Rather than driving NATO apart, the West is now stronger and more united than it has ever been. Russia wanted less of a NATO presence on his border, but now he has a stronger presence, a larger presence, with over 100,000 American troops here, along with all the other members of NATO. In fact, Russia's managed to cause something I'm sure he never intended. The democracies of the world are revitalized with purpose and unity found in months that we've once taken years to accomplish. It's not only Russia's actions in Ukraine that are reminding us of democracy's blessing. It's our own country, his own country, the Kremlin. It's jailing protesters. 200,000 people have allegedly already left. There's a brain drain leaving Russia, shutting down independent news. State media is all propaganda, blocking the image of civilian targets, mass graves, starvation tactics of the Russian forces in Ukraine. Is any wonder, as I said, that 200,000 Russians have already left their country in 1 month? A remarkable brain drain in such a short period of time. Which brings me to my message to the Russian people. I've worked with Russian leaders for decades. I sat across the negotiating table going all the way back to Soviet rear-election proceedings, called arms control, back to the Cold War. I've always spoken directly and honestly to you, the Russian people. Let me say this, if you're able to listen. You, the Russian people, are not our enemy. I refuse to believe that you welcome the killing of innocent children and grandparents, or that you accept hospitals, schools, maternity wards, and for God's sake, being pummeled with Russian missiles and bombs. Their cities being surrounded so the civilians cannot flee. Supplies cut off, and attempting to starve Ukrainians into submission. Millions of families are being driven from their homes, including half of all Ukraine's children. These are not the actions of a great nation. Of all people, you, the Russian people, as well as all people across Europe, still have the memory of being in a similar situation in the late 30s and 40s. Situation World War II. Still fresh in the minds of many grandparents in the region. But whatever your generation experienced, whether it experienced the siege of Leningrad or heard about it from their parents and grandparents, train stations overflowing with terrified families fleeing their home, nights sheltering in basements and cellars, mornings sitting through the rubble in your home. These are not memories of the past, not anymore. Because it's exactly what the Russian army is doing in Ukraine right now. March 26, 2022, just days before we're at the 21st, you were a 21st century nation with hopes and dreams that people all over the world have for themselves and their families. Now, Vladimir Putin's aggression have cut you, the Russian people, off from the rest of the world. It is taking Russia back to the 19th century. This is not who you are. This is not the future you deserve for your families and your children. I'm telling you the truth. This war is not worthy of you, the Russian people. Putin can and must end this war. The American people will stand with you, and the brave citizens of Ukraine who want peace. My message to the rest of Europe: this new battle for freedom has already made a few things crystal clear. First, Europe must end its dependence on Russian fossil fuels, and we, the United States, will help. That's why just yesterday in Brussels, I announced the plan with the President of the European Commission to get Europe through the immediate energy crisis. Over the long term, as a matter of economic security and national security for the survivability of the planet, We all need to move as quickly as possible to clean renewable energy, and we'll work together to help get that done, so that the days of any nation being subject to the whims of the tyrant for its energy needs are over. They must end. They must end. And second, we have to fight the corruption coming from the Kremlin to give Russian people a fair chance. And finally, most urgently, we maintain absolute unity. We must among the other democracies. It's not enough to speak the rhetorical flourish of the ennobling words of democracy, of freedom, equality, and liberty. All of us, including here in Poland, must do the hard work of democracy each and every day. My country as well. That's why. That's why I came to Europe again this week with a clear and determined message for NATO, for the G7, for the European Union, for all freedom-loving nations. We must commit now to be in this fight for the long haul. We must remain unified today and tomorrow and the day after, and for the years and decades to come. It will not be easy. There will be cost, but it's a price we have to pay, because the darkness that drives autocracy is ultimately no match for the flame of liberty that lights the souls of free people everywhere. Time and again, history shows that it's from the darkest moments the greatest progress follows. And history shows this is the task of our time, the task of this generation. Let's remember the hammer blow that brought down the Berlin Wall, the might that lifted the Iron Curtain. Were not the words of a single leader. It was the people of Europe who for decades fought to free themselves. Their sheer bravery opened the border between Austria and Hungary for the pan-European picnic. They joined hands for the Baltic Way. They stood for solidarity here in Poland. And together, it was an unmistakable, undeniable force of the people that the Soviet Union could not withstand. And we're seeing it once again today with the brave Ukrainian people, showing that the power of many is greater than the will of any one dictator. So in this hour, let the words of Pope John Paul burn as brightly today. Never, ever give up hope. Never doubt. Never tire. Never become discouraged. Be not afraid. A dictator bent on rebuilding an empire will never erase the people's love for liberty.
Turn that up a little bit.
Brutality will never grind down their will to be free. Ukraine will never be a victory for Russia, where free people refuse to live in a world of hopelessness and darkness. We will have a different future, a brighter future, rooted in democracy and principle, hope and light, decency and dignity, freedom and possibilities.
Open it up because I can't.
For God's sake, this man cannot.
I see it, yeah.
Okay, there you go. You're good. Straight.
God bless you all.
Thank you. Just a little bit more on your side, Wilson.
And may God protect our freedom. Thank you for your attention.
तो यूक्रेन पर हमले का रूस के पास कोई तर्क नहीं है, जो बाइडेन ने कहा है। आपको बता दें कि 2 दिवसीय पोलैंड के दौरे पर हैं जो बाइडेन, और साथ ही उन्होंने पोलैंड के राष्ट्रपति से मुलाकात की है। इस दौरान कई सारी बातें उन्होंने इस मंच से रखी हैं सामने, जिसमें उन्होंने कहा है कि जिस तरीके से रूस ने कार्रवाई की है वो वाकई में व्लादिमीर पुतिन कितने बड़े कसाई हैं ये दिखाता है। साथ ही साथ यूक्रेन के जो शरणार्थी हैं जो पोलैंड में पहुंचे हुए हैं उनसे भी उन्होंने मुलाकात की है। आर्थिक मदद किस तरीके से कर रहा है अमेरिका, इसके बारे में एक बार फिर से उन्होंने जिक्र किया। साथ ही एक और आर्थिक मदद की बात इस मंच से जो बाइडेन की तरफ से की गई। यूक्रेन के साथ हम पूरी ताकत के साथ खड़े हुए हैं, जो बाइडेन की तरफ से एक बार फिर से ऐलान किया गया है। रूस लोकतंत्र का गला घोट रहा है, नेटो एकजुट है, उसे तोड़ा नहीं जा सकता। यूक्रेन पर हमले का रूस के पास कोई तर्क नहीं है। तो ये तमाम बातें जो बाइडेन की तरफ से कही गई हैं। प्रतिबंधों की वजह से रूस की आर्थिक स्थिति कमजोर हो रही है, क्योंकि तमाम प्रतिबंध नेटो देशों की तरफ से रूस पर लगाए गए हैं। यूक्रेन की रक्षा के लिए अमेरिका खड़ा रहेगा। लोकतंत्र की मजबूती के लिए लड़ना जरूरी है, ये भी अमेरिका के राष्ट्रपति की तरफ से कहा गया है। दुनिया के देश यूक्रेन के शरणार्थियों की मदद करें, क्योंकि उन्होंने आज शरणार्थियों से भी पोलैंड में मुलाकात की है जो यूक्रेन के वहां पहुंचे हुए हैं। तो ये तमाम बातें जो बाइडेन की तरफ से कही गई हैं। 2 दिवसीय पोलैंड के दौरे पर हैं जो बाइडेन, और इसी दौरान उन्होंने पोलैंड के राष्ट्रपति से भी मुलाकात की है।